So on the first question, we are looking at crop sensors and full frame sensors. Full frame sensors are able to interpret the image and light much better because their sensor is much bigger. But crop sensors are also catching up in terms of technology, in terms of image processors within the camera, so that you're getting almost the same picture quality between the cameras, like the FX30 and the FX3. I couldn't tell the footage apart. But now the disadvantage, really a disadvantage, the difference would be when you're shooting crop sensors, there is a 1.5 multiplication factor on your focal length. If I'm shooting on a 35 millimeter, like for me, I'm used to shooting on a full frame. So if I look at a composition, immediately in my head, I know this, I need a 35 millimeter to be able to tell this story. On a crop sensor, if I do put that 50 millimeter or that 5 millimeter on a crop sensor, the 50 millimeter becomes 50 times 1.5 becomes. So you do not, unless you are getting lenses that are meant for crop sensors, it is very hard for you to, that 5 times 1.5. If I did a 35 millimeter lens on the FX30, it will feel like using a 52 millimeter lens on the full frame. So for you to be able to get the same field of view on a crop sensor as you would on a full frame, you need to get slightly wider lenses. Yeah, like a 2470, which is what most of us love using because of the versatility in terms of open to zoom. A 2470 on the crop sensor feels like a 35 to around 120 something. So you get, if you're shooting wildlife, it's a plus because that magnification factor, if you're on a 70 to 200, it becomes a 120 to around 300. So you're able to push the zoom even more. But on a normal situation, if you want to have the versatility of low image noise when you're shooting low light, and also the comfort of working with your focal ranges, the way you understand them, then full frame is a good way to go. Although nowadays, the best camera is the one that you have. If you were to get a crop sensor, you'd still be able to get quite comfortable footage because the minute you understand that camera, the minute you understand that crop factor, if I was shooting using a crop sensor for maybe an year, a whole year plus, if I looked at this composition, I would do my mathematics based on that camera. I would know that on this one, I'd need a 24. On a full frame, that's maybe a 35, but on a crop sensor, I already know to get this frame would need to be on a 34. The only downside to crop sensors is low light. They are not the best at low light, but they are catching up. On the FX3, FX30, I couldn't really tell much difference, except the obvious reasons, like on the FX3, the dual base ISO is 800 and 12,800. 12,800 doesn't matter how dark the setting is, I'll still get very good images. On the FX3, the dual base ISO was 800 and 2,500, which for me wasn't that much of a difference, but it's still enough difference if I am working in an environment where I can introduce my own lights.